Okay, here's your League One recap, sponsored by Sky Bet and the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund, brought to you by him, George Elek, and me, Ali Maxwell, from Not the Top 20 podcast. We had a big game, early kickoff, not just this one to be fair, but Cardiff City against Stockport was the one that I chose to watch in terms of EFL early kickoffs, and Stockport's team selection made me very excited. At the top of the pitch, Wootton, Brecky Anderson and Josh Stokes, they were going to go after Cardiff City. They were going to be the mouse to take on the cat. And they did it very, very well. And they scored the opening goal. And it was a turnover. Dakers-Cogley, big tackle in midfield, carried it forward, had a shot from range. Trott saved it, but Wootton followed in for 1-0. And at that point, I felt like Stockport deserved it. Cardiff had some good possession play, got into the final third fairly well. And they weren't too disrupted by Stockport. But I felt they were really lacking a little bit of je ne sais quoi in the final third, Cardiff. Then things got worse for them because Josef Salek went up for an aerial duel with Brad Hills, went down and was down for an awfully long time. We're talking 10-plus minute delay. A lot of concerns for Salek, who I gather has been released from hospital. And, we will wait and see exactly what the damage is, so to speak. But it was a pretty concerning period. And in fairness to Cardiff, they came out of the other side of that stronger. We finally had a bit of quality, and it was Ollie Tanner, who, in fairness, had already had the best moment going forward for Cardiff. We absolutely rinsed Ethan Pye at one point with a really good bit of skill before kind of tripping over the ball instead of producing a final action. But he did so with a really nice, clever pass, picked out Joel Colwell on the edge to fire home for 1-1. The second half, just not the second half I was hoping for, personally, as a neutral. Just wasn't quite as exciting or entertaining or end-to-end. Both teams pretty much cancelled each other out, to be honest, until Callum Robinson at the end had a really good chance, one saved by Hinchliffe. He's the one you want that to fall to, and he didn't on this occasion finish it, as he has done a couple of times recently, notably winning goal against Stevenage springs to mind. So not a disastrous result for either side, really. Cardiff City 1, Stockport 1. I tell you one team that had a great weekend. Michael Skubala's Imps. Lincoln beat Burton 2-1 on Thursday night, and that means that they could basically put their feet up for the rest of the weekend, maybe even a night out or two, because they've certainly earned it. And results went their way as well. 3 of the rest of the top 6 dropped points, and Lincoln are looking even stronger in second spot as a result. Jack Moylan scored one of my favourite goals for a long time. In that, you often say, George, you just want to see goals that you haven't really seen the likes of before. You eloquently broke down Josh Windas's goal for Wrexham at Loftus Road on Saturday. I think what Moylan did on Thursday night was similar for me, where he latches onto it, he's 25 yards out, it's a really slick, wet surface. He sort of spanks it with the outside of his right foot, even though it's not a shot that would ordinarily call for an outside of the right foot shot. And it just zings in off the far post. Absolutely brilliant strike. Jake Beasley, ex-Geasley, taps in unmarked 6 yards out to equalise, and sort of a little bit of air coming out the Lincoln balloon. But they get the winner in the second half. A bit of a handling error from Brad Collins, the Burton keeper, and Moylan tapped in. So it was a game won by Jack Moylan's 2 goals. Not a vintage display for Lincoln City, but once they were 2-1 up, they really did squash the game and restricted Burton to very little, and that's what they're so good at, Lincoln. They've only been behind for 10.6% of all games this season, and that's the lowest in the EFL, so the best record in the EFL when it comes to making sure they are rarely chasing games. What about those chasing them, George? One of them, Huddersfield Town, announced their new manager in the week, and it's only Liam Manning. It's only Liam Manning. How did he get on at home to Bradford?
Very well. I mean, it was a as good a performance I think anyone could have hoped for against a side in Bradford who, haven't necessarily been in scintillating form, but certainly came into the game in a higher league position than Huddersfield. Interesting to note that Huddersfield, they set up with a kind of the back three with wing backs that they kind of recruited to play. I think that's a good thing for Manning. He's had success in the past generally playing systems with 4 at the back, but the fact that he came in and has kind of built a team around the way they've been recruited rather than necessarily the way that he wants to play, I think was smart from him. And they reaped the rewards, really. Like, this was a game where from the first minute, Huddersfield were by far the better team. They dominated in kind of every single area. They had decent opportunities early on in the game. Lyndon Gooch fired wide from pretty much an open goal. He hit the side netting. Alfie May was looking his best self, like tireless running in behind. And given that Manning, there's a lot of misconceptions about Liam Manning still for some reason, and I don't really know why, around playing style and around the way that he likes to play. Like I even saw people talking about him in the same breath as kind of Russell Martin during the Oxford manager search, and it's just nonsense. Like he's not a manager who wants his teams to pass teams to death at all. He's a manager who's very happy for his teams to be out of possession for long periods of the game, and then when they win the ball in high areas, be very, very direct and quick in terms of the way that they attack. And I think that for Alfie May in particular, that is perfect, because he is that kind of player where he will press high. He'll make runs in behind. He's able to run the channels, or be the striker that takes up the position centrally. And when the goal came, it came thanks to May's work rate, and then the ball kind of came across. I think was it Radulovic had a decent opportunity that saved in, and then Marcus Harness finished it off well, playing as a number 10 behind Radulovic and May. Barley Mumba looked really good down the left-hand side too. Really impressed with him. Marcus McGuane made his first start for Huddersfield. It's kind of perfect that he's there. I mean, I genuinely wonder if the only reason Liam Manning took this job was because Marcus McGuane was there. A player that he
loves Marcus McGuane more than anyone's ever loved Marcus McGuane outside of family members.
I also love Marcus McGuane.
Yeah, but you haven't... Would you have signed him for Bristol City? Probably not.
Probably not. I mean, it's funny because he was so good in that spell for Oxford under Manning, and then he was the whole thing goes. He was Oxford's 6th choice centre midfielder when Bristol City paid a fee to buy him in the Championship, and then for a time under Manning, he did okay for Bristol City as well when he first came into the team. He went to Huddersfield. He's had some injury issues. He hasn't played at all this season. Makes his first start, and I feel sorry for him because, I mean, the second yellow is just a really bad foul and a stupid decision to make when you're on a yellow, and probably could have been given a straight red, albeit it would have been harsh. The first yellow that he gets, he's running off to get the ball for a throw in, and Aidan Baldwin, who's got a bit of previous for being a bit of a house, just walks over to Marcus McGuane and just pushes him towards the advertising hoardings, which could have been quite nasty. Like had McGuane not been able to stop himself, McGuane then turns around and is understandably annoyed and pushes Baldwin, and Baldwin falls over, and McGuane gets a yellow card, and Baldwin is unpunished. Like that would annoy me if I was him. For that to be the first yellow card seems totally unfair. But either way, it didn't matter, because when they were down to 10, Huddersfield did what Manning's team is very good at doing, and they defended space really well. Bradford had a couple of strikes from range, but didn't really trouble them too much, and Huddersfield win the game 1-0. And in reality, this was Bradford's worst attacking performance of the season so far, and the reason for that was because Huddersfield were very good. So early days, of course, but in terms of a first test in what is a local derby, it's hard to see how Manning could have really done any more apart from just a scoreline that would have reflected the dominance they showed in this game.
Yeah, I mean, you say Bradford's worst attacking performance of the season. It's been trending that way for a while. It's a point that I was trying to make when I said that I was worried that a tough run of fixtures and a poor run of results in those tough fixtures was going to lead to them kind of dropping down back towards the pack. That's obviously certainly looks like it's happening. But defeats to Cardiff City by 1 goal and a defeat at Huddersfield by 1 goal are certainly, there's no shame in that. I'm just concerned that this is now a stretch of games where, they scored 2 against Wigan, which was 6 games ago. The winning goal came from a set piece when Wigan were down to 9 men. They scored against Port Vale, which was Jensen Metcalf picking out the top corner from 25 yards. Drew a blank against Mansfield. Scored 2 against Blackpool, set piece goal from Baldwin, and then Will Swan kind of robbing the centre-back, running through and finishing 1-on-1. And then in the last game against Cardiff, Jensen Metcalf again scoring from 25 yards, an identical goal into the top corner. So the general way of attacking and scoring goals, creating chances for your front players, have completely dried up for Bradford, and the goals that they are scoring have been more like set-piece goals or slightly random one-off situations, which does not suggest that they are working very well as an attacking force at the moment, and that is something that they will need to sort out at some point. I went to Huddersfield in December before Christmas as part of our work with the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund, and God, I had such a fun time. amazing set of characters taking part in the Heart of the Town programme, which is supported by the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. And it's run by a brilliant group at the Huddersfield Town Foundation. This is about cardiovascular health, heart health, basically. And I mean, everywhere we've visited so far this season has been brilliant in its own way. But I would say from a personal level, like, this felt incredibly important to me in ways that I didn't necessarily realise until I went up. And I think that's testament to what these programmes can offer people, because it's obviously not rocket science to say that you want your heart to be as healthy as possible. But I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm not walking around thinking about it as much as I should. I think heart health is one of those things that until it impacts you or someone that you know, there is a chance that you slightly take it for granted. And I know that in the Kirklees area, the local area there, cardiovascular health is a real issue, and that's what the foundation are trying to tackle. So they built this 12-week programme, completely free for participants. Once a week they come. A really good program, lots of different aspects to it, just in terms of trying to improve people's cardiovascular health, their heart health, make them healthier in that way, and that is incredibly impactful. So there's so many things that go into it, and lots of people listening will know them automatically, might not have thought about them specifically, and therefore there could be some value in doing that. And there'll be some that people won't have necessarily thought about too much. But essentially, weight management's really important when it comes to your heart's health. The ways of doing that are broadly exercise and diet. And there was, big educational pieces on both fronts during this program. And every single week there was kind of circuits training to get everyone moving and get the blood pumping, so to speak. But also lots of stuff around alcohol, around mental well-being, and how kind of all of these things are linked, even though they're separate aspects of life, like exercise, diet, mental well-being, physical well-being, weight management. All this stuff is quite linked. And I think for me personally, it's something that I notice when I'm feeling good. I'm kind of ticking all of the boxes there, where I'll be doing some exercise, I'll be eating slightly better, and each aspect motivates the other and helps the other to work. Whereas sometimes you can lose a bit of momentum or take your eye off the ball, and you realise that all four of those things can kind of take a bit of a hit, and that's when you start feeling really sluggish, lethargic, when you're being unhealthy, basically. So, yeah, everyone had their heart health measured on week 1, and we were there on the final week of the programme. And one of the guys that attended the programme for 12 weeks, his heart age was 11 years younger at the end of the 12-week programme. And that, for me, is impact. That is impact. I had my heart health measured as well, which I must say was quite eye-opening and definitely helped kind of focus the mind. And yeah, I hope that kind of reflects what a special program it is. Even just going for one day, I could see what a great thing that they're doing up there, and all of it supported by the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund as well. We've got a video going out on our social channel, so head to NTT20 Pod on Instagram for a little POV style kind of a view of the day that I had. And yeah, big thanks to everyone for having me, because I was made very, very welcome. Plymouth Argyle beat Luton by a goal to nil. Their good form keeps on rolling. Talked about this one on the betting show. I thought there was an interesting wrinkle with Luton, where their form has been kind of fine under Wilshere, not amazing, not terrible, but the odds have been stacked in their favour. I think they've played 7 of their last 10 games in the league at home before this one, and they need to sort their away form out, because this is the next in line of defeats or dropped points, and it's it's going to stop them from getting where they want to be, which is in the top 6 this season. They need to make the most of the parachute payments that they still have, and they've got work to do, because Argyle were good for this. They were strong performers in the first half, went ahead when a Tolai header was brilliantly saved by Keeley, but Brendan Galloway sort of scissor kicked in the rebound against his old club. Connor Hazard did make some good saves. It wasn't like Luton were completely out of this. Casey Palmer was denied. Nicky Wells was denied as well. Bim Peppel, former Luton attacker, missed a one-on-one for Argyle as well. So it was quite an entertaining game. I kind of flicked this one on when I was getting a bit bored of Cardiff Stockport, and for Argyle at the moment, just everything's kind of clicked. They're playing forward quickly. They're winning duels. They're getting onto seconds. They're moving the ball out wide and running at players. They've got the big front two, and things seem to be sticking to them. Tolai is excellent, but Peppel's kind of been brought along with him. And yes, really, really impressive. In the last 8 games in League One, only Lincoln have got more points than Argyle. And you don't need reminding what shape they were in before, because we were talking about it a lot. And so I think you just have to say, well done, Tom Cleverley. Well done, Derek Adams, because this form has coincided with Adams' arrival as director of football. And well done to those that decided that rather than just sacking Cleverley and going back to a complete vacuum, they brought someone in to give him a hand, and everyone's winning. George, Bolton 2, Leyton Orient 1. Bolton moving into 3rd, jumping above Bradford with this win.
Yeah, really big win for them. For them to now be 3rd after what's been a difficult run of games, not their best run, but to find themselves where they are, I think will give them belief that they can be the team to try and chase down Lincoln. The first half here was a dire affair, really, if we're honest. Very little happened. The only thing of note was a Mario Cozier-Dubry going down and staying down, holding his knee, which is bad news for Bolton fans. Steven Schumacher came afterwards and said that they'll assess him on Monday, that he wasn't in a brace, and that they'll have to see how it is, and they're hoping he's just tweaked a ligament in his knee. But even that suggests he's going to be out for, you would think, at least weeks. But we'll have to see what happens there. The winger from the other side, Thierry Gale, scored a really nice goal down the left-hand side. A decent kind of solo effort, finished off well by him, but for straight away Theo Archibald at the other end finished really well with the loose ball firing into the top right-hand corner. Bolton had a fair few opportunities after that, but it didn't really feel like anything was going to drop their way. Chris Farino, in particular, skewing one well wide. Before another one of these kind of handballs where the ball is swung in, and there was just a loose arm in the air, quite clearly diverting the ball away from ahead, and therefore a penalty is given, which Mason Burstow dispatched in the first minute of injury time. There was loads of injury time, but Orient struggled to really find a way to make that count. So, it wasn't regulation. It was a game that Bolton would have expected to win, and they did win it. For Orient, just, the struggles continue, really. Just looking at a shadow of the team that I think we thought we were going to get this season, even though they obviously lost so many great players last season. Earlier on in the campaign, there were signs that maybe Welland was building something else, but at the moment they're a long way off where they want to be and probably where they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got Port Vale 1, Exeter 3 to talk about, and that's a real delight because Exeter City keep on rolling, playing beautiful stuff, this time on the road. Last Monday, you were telling me how amazing their home form is. All of the goals that they scored were delightful. Niskanen, the assist king, setting up Carlos Mendes Gomez. Now, I will admit that seeing his name makes me a bit emotional because the early parts of Carlos Mendes Gomez's career playing for Morecambe in League Two, they will live long in the memory for me. One of my favourite ever promotion teams, and Mendes Gomez very much one of my favourite players within it, scoring at the back post and contributing since he's come into this Exeter side. I would love it if he could stay fit between now and the end of the season, because I think Mendes Gomez in rhythm, I would just love to be reminded of his ability, of the type of player that he is. I think he'll add a lot to this Exeter side if he can stay fit. Niskanen's 8 assists this season in the league. Only Mikey Johnston and Mitch Pinnock have more in the EFL. And then the man at the top of the pitch, Jaden Wareham. I mean, the work rate of the kid brings a tear to the eye. It really does. He had one off the post in the first half where a ball forward, he kind of wrestled with the defender and it dropped between them. And then he just hit it first time on the volley over the keeper's head and it bounced off the base of the post. Would have been spectacular, would have been sensational. Second half, he latches onto the ball, having trailed the play, and just smashes it in from 20 yards to make it 2-0. Tutierov, you mentioned him last week, on loan from Sunderland, the young Ukrainian, scored in his first game, scored in this one as well. Tapped in an Aitchison assist. He honestly must think this is quite an easy game at this point, Tutierov. And you could say the same about Exeter. They concede one at the end. They give Vale a goal. They've only conceded 6 in their last 9 league games. It's an astounding defensive record. And this one was like, yeah, all right, you can have a consolation. We feel bad for you. You're all booing. You're bottom of the league. Let's give you one. Otherwise, Sweeney, Fitzwater, Woodhouse in front of Whitworth, seemingly quite difficult to get past. And there's Liam Oakes. the latest academy kid off the rank, starting the last 3 games at left wing back. What fun. We've got to celebrate this hard. I unashamedly want Exeter and AFC Wimbledon to thrive in League One because of their ownership status. And both clubs, individually and for slightly different reasons, have been feeling the challenge hard this season. Let's be honest about that. I would love them both to stay up. Exeter are more worried about the playoffs at this point than relegation, and why not? Peterborough, George. Peterborough went to Wycombe. They won 2-0. That's a good bounce back from them.
A really good bounce back. I would say a scoreline that doesn't necessarily tell the whole story, though, where, for Peterborough going away from home to Wycombe, I think any win is a good win. And Cara Lisby finished well, couldn't really miss from close range in the first half. Cian Hayes scored a brilliantly executed kind of counter-attack in the second half. Those are the 2 goals. And in between, it was just Wycombe missing loads of chances. Mike Duff is understandably very frustrated with his side's inability to finish off chances, whether it was Fink or Luke Harris or Boyd Muntz or Woodrow. Like, chances just came and went throughout that first half. And I can't really just shake the feeling that, and maybe it's because as an Oxford fan, I've probably heard and read more from Wycombe fans in the last couple of weeks than I normally would. And especially given that they all, despite them going to a club that a lot of Wycombe fans don't particularly like, all wish Bloomfield incredibly well. But it feels like a bad vibes club at the moment, Wycombe, to me. Obviously went through a really good run once Mike Duff came in, and Duff is a manager that I think, you and I agree is a very good one and has shown himself to be very effective. But since that good run of form, the performances certainly haven't been as good recently. Even if the last result was okay, I know they came into this having won a few games. There was that 4-0 defeat against Luton earlier on. The games they win against Northampton and AFC Wimbledon are marginal. I don't know. It just feels to me like a squad there's been so much recruitment over the last year or so, and there just isn't much kind of stability or balance within it. And fans who, it was a year or so ago, were towards the top end of League One, dreaming of a return to the Championship, starting to feel pretty apathetic about things. Now, obviously, they finished their chances on this day and things look very different. And Peterborough themselves have shown how quickly a team or a club can go from looking pretty down in the dumps to, more upwardly mobile again. But I just, having on a couple of occasions recently been a little bit more positive on Wycombe, it just feels like something's off there at the moment to me.
Great to see Lisby on the score sheet. Who knew when we were on an incredibly basic level just quite excited about a pair of Lisby twins just spawning into the EFL, one at Peterborough, one at Colchester. Who knew what an impact they would be having on the 25-26 EFL season, with Kyrese, one of the top scorers in League Two, one of the biggest goal threats in League Two, and now Kyrell coming into things since Luke Williams joined Peterborough United. And God, it feels so lazy to say, but they are such similar players in terms of the efficiency of what they do and how they do it. And it's not just that they are similar, which isn't that surprising. It's the fact there just aren't very many players like them in the whole league. These are absolute speed merchants that also know exactly how to use that speed to dangerous effect when it comes to being a goal threat. These are guys who aren't massive dribblers, certainly aren't crossers of the ball. They are just there to get in behind, basically, and to get to the back post. And it's just so effective. I love it. So well done them. There was a very funny miss near the end here, George. A young lad playing up front for Peterborough came on, demanded that he got a square ball, received the square ball, kind of scuffed his shot, and then got a second chance about 2 yards out and managed to hit the ball over the bar from 2 yards, which I was quite impressive. His name is Adiroju, and I note that he's just been recalled from a loan spell at Eastbourne Borough, where he scored 20 goals in 25 games. So that's his first mention on the pod for slightly comedy purposes, but I wonder if we might have someone quite interesting on our hands here. Blackpool beat Northampton 2-0. They've got a striker that scores lots of goals. His name is Ashley Fletcher. He scored a penalty, which he won to make it 2-0 in what was a very routine victory for Blackpool. Zach Ashworth had scored the first goal. This might have been routine, but it certainly does not mean it wasn't important for Poole after 3 defeats in a row before this one had kind of checked their progress up the league. But in beating Northampton, who are now in the bottom 4, it's very clear that they are not the relegation fodder that they were in the first half of the season, and I don't expect them to be troubled by it. Obviously, they need to keep their eye on the ball. Obviously, it'd be great if they could avoid this absurd circus of injuries that they've had all season and finish the season with some semblance of a settled squad and starting 11 so that Everett can start to shape things ahead of the summer. They've obviously made some fairly eye-catching bits of recruitment, I would suggest, including Joel Randall, who Everett bought for Bolton this time last year and then got sacked almost immediately. He's joined, and someone else whose name escapes me. Northampton themselves winless in 6, only 2 points in that time, plummeting down the table, now in the bottom 4. But I'm here to say a couple of positive things. They have had some quite tough fixtures, all of which on paper, I don't think you can be, it's not that shameful necessarily in isolation, this run that they're on. The hope for them springs eternal when I tell you that they have only played 3 of the bottom half at home. So they still have, 8 fixtures at home to current bottom half teams. That's a good place to be in a relegation battle with 20 games to go. They've got very, very hard away games is the other side of that coin. But I sort of think they'd prefer to have most of the teams around them at home and do their best on their travels. Loads of draws, George, and one in particular that was just ridiculous. Tell me about Doncaster 3, Wigan 3.
What has happened here? Donny, guys. If you put in a performance like this at home and you're 3-0 up, you've just got to win. You cannot concede 3 goals to the travellers, to the visitors. But Donny were brilliant. From 0-0 to 1-0 to 2-0 to 3-0, they were all over Wigan. In a way
they might be the best worst team in the EFL this season.
For a bad team, they can be incredibly good. Okoronkwo scored a nice finish after within 10 minutes or so. Jay McGrath scored a header. They had loads of opportunities either side of those goals. They went into half-time 2-0 up, but it was genuinely as cosy a 2-0 as it could have been. Wigan had a couple of chances very early on in the game, but since then, Donny have been just completely dominant. And the third goal should have been, if you're a Wigan fan and you watch this third goal and you're 3-0 down away from home, you just think that this is just, there's never been a more like this is just not our day. When the ball comes into the box, Will Amerson tries to clear it and basically completely misses it. The ball falls to James Carragher, who tries to clear it, kind of scuffs his clearance towards Amerson, who's lying on the floor. And the ball comes towards Amerson's head, and all he can do is, deliberately, it doesn't hit him on the head, he deliberately heads it back into... I am talking about the defenders here, back into their own box, where Harry Clifton is there to sweep the ball home. And just to make matters worse, the keeper should probably save it too. It is the most calamitous of... It's genuinely like it is a cross into the box, a setback, a knockdown and a finish. The only issue being that the setback and the knockdown were both by defenders and one of them's lying on the floor. A ridiculous goal. A goal that, as I say, makes you think it's just not our day. But Joe Taylor's you know what? Could be our day. Could be our day. Because you might have signed me to be a player who's going to be a fox in the box and play off the shoulder. I'm going to get in the ball deep and I'm going to run and I'm going to place a lovely curled finish in the top right-hand corner from 25 yards in front of the OA fans. And they're like, all right, cool. Callum Wright off the bench. He's like, yeah, I'll divert a ball in with some part of my anatomy from close range. And Wigan away fans are like, here we go. And Owen Moxon, who can't spend much time in the box from corners, given he normally takes them at the previous clubs that he's been at, rises highest from a corner and nods it home to make it 3-3. And just to add insult to injury, even in between all of these goals, Donny is still on top. Donny is still making all the running. Clifton misses a good chance. Jordan Gibson, who came off the bench at half-time, misses a good chance. And Jack Senior hits the post to make it 4-3 in injury time as well. Like, this is just how Wigan have come away from this with a point. I'll never know. And for Doncaster, when your luck's down, your luck's down. But there's massive positives in their performance. Although one quite alarming negative, which is they squandered a 3-goal lead.
Doncaster 3 points from safety now. Quite a few other draws. Reading 2, Barnsley 2. Reading winning 10-3 on the shot count. So 4 goals in the game, quite entertaining fare. Not actually an end-to-end game in any way. A 2-2 draw, Reading having to come from behind as well. Haydon Roberts had put them ahead at the back post. Recent signing from Bristol City, and I think quite a good signing for Reading. But Reyes Cleary, just incredible dribbling ability, beating his man down the line with a real nice bit of play, and just fizzing it across for Didsy McGoldrick to tap in for 1-1. Adam Phillips let fly from range, massive deflection, flew into the near post to put Barnsley 2-1 up. Again, only 3 shots total in the whole game, so getting plenty from them, I think it's fair to say. And then Ryan Nyambe, of all people, now plays for Reading. Just put his head down and got going down the right side, charging forward. Haven't seen him contribute going forward like this for a long time. Set up Jack Marriott eventually with the finish. Have seen him contribute a lot in recent times. His finishing this season has been an absolute joke, Jack Marriott. And there was Will Keane with a chance for Reading, just showing, Liam Richardson and the new owners, adding some experience. This is a club, obviously, that just had all of its playing assets kind of stripped back over time, or almost all of them, I should say, and ended up with such a young squad. So, there'll be people who look at signing Will Keane and Ryan Nyambe and think, what you're doing signing older players from the league above on their way down. But I kind of think Reading need that sort of player, or more of those sorts of players, and they've now got them in the squad. Rotherham won, Wimbledon won. Rotherham will be kicking themselves here. The side in the ascendancy, the better side, the side with the lead as well, once Zach Jules had put them ahead, had the better of the game. But Wimbledon, one of their rare forays forward, Marcus Brown, big header, scored some big goals recently, which I kind of like that for Marcus Brown. He's clearly, a mercurial talent and someone with a lot of individual ability. I don't always feel or have felt like he has applied that in a way that has been hugely helpful for the team in his now 13 months at Wimbledon. But no doubt that in the last couple of weeks he has stepped up when they've really needed that, and when the individual talent of others has not been demonstrated whatsoever. They look so poor going forward at the moment, Wimbledon. But that goal keeps 7 points between them, which could be crucial. And then Stevenage won, Mansfield won. Great drama, late drama. Akins had scored a penalty, won by Rhys Oates. Shock. Rhys Oates doing another really good thing. And then a really frantic late attack fell to Chem Campbell, who smashed home into the near post for a 1-1 draw. Mansfield's winning streak ends in Stevenage.